Welcome to the Project 28 podcast, a ministry of Grace Bible Church in Troy, Alabama. Project 28 is designed to cover discipleship topics and how we can apply Scripture to our everyday lives.
Welcome back to the Cat Blanket Studio version 2.0. My name is Clay Graham. Welcome back to the Project 28 podcast. I'm here with Wesley and Perry and Randy. And today we have special guest, Miss Angie Brabham. I'll let her introduce herself in a second. This is a community interview episode. We did one of these a while back with Mr. Clint Free from Common Ground Troy. And today we have Angie. She works with Agape. I'm not sure the full name of it.
Agape of Central Alabama.
Agape of Central Alabama. Tell us, Angie, a little bit about yourself. You're a member here at our church, and we're very thankful for that. So tell us about your background, your testimony, and then we can get into Agape in a minute.
Okay. So, like Clay said, I'm a member here. We started coming 8 years ago, and can't believe it's been 8 years.
Had a bunch of children since then.
Yeah.
Josh, your husband, is
yes,
a deacon here.
my husband. I was like, where are we going with this? Josh is a deacon here. Mm-hmm. As far as like my testimony goes, I was raised to kind of think, if you know that Jesus died on the cross for your sins, you're going to go to heaven. And you don't have to go to church to be a Christian. I was what I call Creasters. We only attended church on Christmas and Easter. Mm-hmm. And that was just like my childhood growing up, not really knowing anything from the Bible. And when I was about 13, I started going to church regularly. And from there, I got more of a knowledge of, okay, Christ died because he loves you. Like, that's where I heard that. And it wasn't until I came to Grace Bible Church 8 years ago that I heard, okay, Christ died because he loves you, because you sinned, and you are going to, you need salvation. Mm-hmm. I didn't understand, what you were saved from until I came here. Mm-hmm. And the expository preaching is what really, grabbed us. I was invited by a former boss, and we showed up to Randy's life group one day, and he went over to Josh, my husband. He was like, man, I've been trying to get in touch with you. And that really stuck with Josh. Mm-hmm. That was just that pursuing of a person that Josh had never had before seen. And so that got us to keep coming, and we have been sanctified ever since. And we've loved it here. Yeah. This is our family.
I've heard there's some stories that y'all look back and laugh
Oh, yeah,
on.
there's plenty.
Okay, so, tell us about Agape. What is it about, and when did you start working there?
So Agape of Central Alabama is a nonprofit organization. We are based out of Montgomery, but we have offices in Montgomery, Troy, Birmingham, and Tuscaloosa. I have worked there now for 5 years, and I specifically do foster care for the Wiregrass area, and I just recently picked up a few special homes in Mobile. And we started back in 1978. Mm-hmm. We provide, as an agency, 3 services, and that's maternity services, adoption, private adoption, and foster care services. And so,
can you tell me a little bit about each one of those?
Yes. So as far as maternity services, that has been our biggest area that we serve, and the biggest population we serve, because ever since the overturn of Roe versus Wade, there were agencies not, including us, not prepared for that. And so our caseload there, it might have went to servicing 8 women a year, jumped to 22 within a year. And that is...
sounds like a lot.
It's a lot. It's our busiest branch of what we do. But with maternity, what I think that we do well is that birth moms are not forced to make an adoption plan. They can choose to parent, or towards the end of it, if they have said, I want to make an adoption plan, once they get their baby and they hold their baby, it hits, you know what, I do want to parent.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a question, and I think this will feed back into something that I meant to start with and failed to do. The reason we do these community interview episodes is because, and we mentioned this with Clint's episode as well, you know, there's a lot of ministries and agencies out there that are doing more than just what our church can do, right? Like they're meeting needs within communities and things. So what kind of circumstances are these women going through that they're becoming clients of you guys?
So the biggest issue we run into, that these women are running into, is just a lack of support.
Like financial support? Or what do you mean by that?
Family support.
Okay.
Our maternity client age range has been anywhere between 13 and 40, like in the 40s. So it's just all, like, if you can have a baby, we have serviced that age group.
Sure.
It's women who maybe, let's say, for example, have had a child and cannot afford childcare, or that they've become pregnant. They know that they can't afford childcare, or maybe this is their 4th child and the rest of the children, they're already struggling financially. A lot of it is financial, I believe. I specifically do not work in maternity.
Sure.
So I don't know the ins and outs of it.
Right.
But I know the biggest hurdle that those clients go through is a lack of housing and a lack of transportation. And we try to meet their needs by making sure that they go to their prenatal appointments and making sure that their immediate needs are met, such as groceries. They have food in the home. Making sure that they have transportation in some way or another to employment. And it's just little things like that we try to help them out with. A lot of it's just being there for them, because a lot of these moms don't have the family support that maybe you or I have.
Right.
And so just being there and just ministering to them mainly.
Tell me a little bit more about foster care, since you know more about that. Like what's like the goal of foster? Just pretend I know nothing about foster care. Just like explain it to me like I'm 5. What is it? Why does it happen? What's the goal of it?
Okay. So foster care is a temporary placement for a child in a family setting. Well, a foster home is the family setting, because there are other places that a child could be placed, such as a group home or something like that. So foster care, the point of it is to temporarily house a child until their home that they're removed from is safe and stable enough for them to return to home to. And so in saying that, the biggest goal of foster care is reunification. And that's where a lot of people, once they step into foster care, they don't realize just how deep of a partnership it is with birth family. And that's where I think that Agape does it best, because we look at our relationships with birth family and the children and DHR, who place the children in our homes, as people that we minister to. And I tell my foster parents all the time, you know, you could be the only Christian, like true Christian, that this birth mom has ever had contact with. And so how you represent yourself is representing Christ to her. How you treat her is how it needs to be, how Christ treats his children.
Right.
So foster care with us, it's a ministry. It really is.
Now, is Agape a Christian organization?
Yes, we are. So our mission statement is that as a ministry of Jesus Christ, we help children, vulnerable and orphan children, find permanency in safe and loving homes. And that can look like in maternity going home to a birth mom that is better equipped at caring for a child. It could be in our private adoption, it could be going to a adoptive home. And within foster care, it can be either of those things really, because sometimes children in foster care end up able to be adopted. And usually kids in foster care go home in one way or another to either a parent or a family member. But we know that sin is in the world. And God designed the family to be together. But because of sin, that can't always happen. And so we have foster homes that are willing and able to foster a child, and then if that child becomes available for adoption, they're willing to adopt that child and provide that permanency for them.
Right. So how many clients are like, I don't know how to phrase this question exactly, but like how many children do y'all work with in a month or in a year or something?
I do not know.
That's okay.
I don't know that number. I can tell you off the top of my head, I think we just updated my list of foster homes, but I want to say I have like 10 now, 10 or 11 homes that I work with.
And how many of you are there? Like how many other foster care workers?
4.
Okay.
Well, right now, we're in a transition period with some people. And so we've got one foster care person each in every area. So one in Tuscaloosa, one in Birmingham, Montgomery, and me.
I see. Okay. So what are some of the biggest hurdles you face in your work? Like either spiritually or just practically? Like what gives you a hard time?
Hard time. We don't have enough homes. I mean, that's just simple. We don't have enough homes, and at Agape, we pride ourselves on being a ministry to our foster families. And so where a family, fostering's hard, and we know that 50% of foster parents quit fostering after a year. And so at Agape, those numbers are much different. I want to say the last numbers that we did was 90%.
That 90% keep going?
Keep going.
Okay.
And so, and I believe that is because we are a ministry. We meet emotional and spiritual some needs of our families. Like I love that I'm able to go and pray with one of my families. Right. I love that I'm able to open the Bible with them when things are so hard and show them in Scripture that there's going to be hope, that God has a plan for this child, and we just can't see it yet. We just have to have faith.
Yeah.
And so, remind me of your question.
No, you answered it. You answered it. Like that was one of the biggest hurdles.
Well, I was going to say, another, like a big hurdle for us is we need homes that will take children with that are in a sibling group of 4 or more. That is the hardest thing, because a lot of kids are coming into care and they have 4 siblings, 3 or 4 siblings. And most foster homes are not equipped to take that many kids. Yeah. And so we really need those. What
do you do when you don't have enough homes? Like, I don't know. Do you have to turn kids away, or is there a group setting? Like, what do you do?
So how a kid comes to us is DHR investigates abuse and neglect. If they find that there has been something going on and there's no family able to take the child, then the child enters foster care. If DHR cannot find one of their foster homes, they reach out to a private agency such as Agape.
Okay.
And when they call us and we don't have a home and they can't find a home in other agencies, a child has to sleep on the floor at DHR.
Oh, man.
And, I mean, it's so sad, especially around the holidays. You've got foster families that are vacationing, going out of town. They got their own, holiday plans. And then you've got a 15-year-old sleeping on the floor at DHR with a worker, and workers are taking shifts. Just
Wow.
watching that kid, and it's very, very sad. There are group homes out there, but there's a wait list to get on them sometimes, and it's just not the ideal setting. We want children in families.
Right. Well, because, I mean, we've talked about this on here before, like, God gave parents for the discipline and instruction of children, right? And even though this is not a traditional setting, like, and even if it's temporary, like you were saying, like, a foster parent can be that Christian representative, or they can teach those kids while they're there and keep them safe, So why are you passionate about this? Or maybe even like, why did you get into social work? And like, what drives you to keep doing what you do?
Everyone that ever does social work, I feel like they say, I got in it to help people. And that's initially like the base of it. But I got in it because, I mean, I did not grow up in a great house, and just knowing that there are kids out there that live in similar situations, and you could be the difference in getting them out of that situation into a better one, or just educating the parents on, okay, this is how you do it in a safe way, how you parent in a safe way. Because a lot of these parents that we come across, they're just parenting how they know. If they grew up in an environment where, they were beat to a pulp, that's sometimes all they know. And they just need someone to work with them and teach them other ways.
So, based on that, then, you like working here? And I know that we used to talk, before you even started working there, and how happy you were to be a part of Agape. You've expressed that to me a million times. Like, what are some of the dreams that you have for Agape? Let's say that you had an unlimited budget or something that you could spend on the organization. Like, what would be the best allocation of resources if y'all had them?
I would say if we had the resources to, of course, we would hire staff. We would hire enough staff to take on all the foster homes we can handle. We would take on all the maternity clients that we could handle. But I would say the biggest thing that I would love to see Agape do in the future is just work more with birth families on a preventative side. Because if we can prevent children from coming into foster care, that's where we need to be. Yeah. I tell people all the time, I would love to be out of a job.
Yeah.
I would love, because, I mean, every call, every email I get from DHR, a child has been abused or neglected. And so if we could provide some kind of service, whether it be parenting classes or something like that, to teach birth families, this is a healthy way to parent. Like, this is the alternative to what you've been doing. We would see a lot less kids come through.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, that's what you would want. And, if people want to support financially, that would be a good way to use those resources. But it sounds to me, too, based on what you do, a big thing that you need is more families involved in fostering, right? So if a family wants to, if they're hearing this, if they want to be involved as a foster family, what do they tell me, what are some things they need to do to prepare for that?
Well, the first thing they can do is go to our website, and it's Agape for Children. That's FOR, children.org. And we have a statement of faith and statement of affirmation there that they would have to look over and agree to. And then past that, they could give any one of our offices a call and talk to us about classes, because foster parents do have to complete 10 weeks of classes, and it's once a week for 3 hours. And this training is pretty, every agency uses it in Alabama. So if you go to Agape, if you go to DHR, it's not going to matter. You're going to get the same training. It's called TIPS training, trauma-informed parenting. And however, I think at Agape, we just do it best. I'm just partial.
Well, when you have the gospel
That's
informing
right.
what you do, no matter what your field is, whether it's social work or anything else. When you're working for a purpose, and that purpose is the glory of God.
That's right.
You're going to hopefully do things better.
That's one fascinating thing to me in this whole time. And I mean, you've identified it directly as just a failure to be how God made it to be. And a lot of your goal is restoration. And that's, I don't know, I think that's absolutely best in the context of like a Christian organization. Just like, let's get this back to as close to the created order of how you're supposed to raise kids as possible, as we can in any situation. But also, it breaks my heart seeing, as you've mentioned, like the almost generations of sin, not like a weird generational curse or something, but like people don't know are raising people who don't know are raising people who don't know.
Yes.
And like that third and fourth generation is what you're getting. And that's genuinely heartbreaking in a place that's like the buckle of the Bible Belt, right? Like everyone's supposed to know how to train a kid right or whatever, but we just don't. That's heartbreaking.
And I've been sitting over here thinking about how, the fact that these situations exist. I'm going to make a general statement, okay? I'm not saying it's without exceptions. But it's the result of the gospel not being preached in communities and people not being exposed to the gospel and not accepting the gospel, right? Because when we are believers, we are sanctified. And the fact that these problems exist, right? The need for these services, it's never going to go away until Jesus comes back and fixes everything, right? But it does speak to the need for the gospel to go out to more of these communities. And because where the gospel goes, believers are made and things are sanctified,
I think on top of that is like, I wish, same thing you said, I wish Agape didn't exist. As much as I like your organization, that would be ideal. And I think that would be, now we know, you said if people want to be a foster family, they get to agapeforchildren.com, right? .org. Or they can find a number, they can call you. That's how they can get in touch with that. If they want to support it financially, that's the way they would do it too, right?
Yes. And also I want to say, if people can't give monthly or whatever it may be, there are so many other ways that churches especially support us. And one of those is there's coin cans, there's baby boxes.
Yeah.
We have in the maternity services, they get diaper bags donated and filled with things that moms would need when they leave the hospital with their baby. We just recently had a student, I think it was a high school student, donate just basically hampers of cleaning supplies for our foster families, and that's a huge help to our families.
Yeah. So there's a lot of ways to help there, but then too, my point, that I want to make too is also that like, what else can the church do? And this is kind of what Clay was alluding to, that the church can be the church, right?
Yes.
That the more, back to the challenge we always give on these podcasts, is that as the local church, we're called to be sharing the gospel wherever we go. Okay, Angie does a great job of that. She works and she can do it there. Wesley does it at his job. Clay does it at his. Randy does it at his. I work remote, so I try to do it at mine, wherever I may be. But the local church, if we're taking the gospel out, whomever listens to this, in your community, you're taking the gospel out. If you want to see a change and these situations lessen, you want to see families raising their children for Christ, you share the gospel. Because when people hear the gospel and they accept the gospel, they become believers, then that should mitigate most of these things, right? That's what we're seeking for in these communities, is we share the gospel, people become Christians, and hopefully we don't have to have needs for these services in our communities, right? So that's my big challenge, I think, to everybody also listening. If they should definitely help you guys out, but also the biggest help that we can give is by being the church, right? So,
and gosh, like how many times have you either evangelized or even in your own life come to some realization about Scripture, or God's convicted you of some sin, and one of the first things that you say, or I hear people say all the time, is, I wish someone had told me that when I was a kid, or that's in the Bible, or well, I was just raised in this insert bad way, or just in anything that's just sinful, that's just selfish and wrong. And it's so pervasive that like almost any time I share the gospel or learn something or talk to somebody who is learning, Like even with just some of the youth stuff, all the people that have helped me with the youth stuff have shown up because they were like, I wish someone had told me XYZ about the Bible when I was young, and it would be fun to do that with these kids. And that's just, I mean, that's like, family is huge. That's everywhere. And every person that you share the gospel with is a person who will be sharing the gospel with other people down the line, if you want to think of it that way, whether it's their own family or, you know, their coworkers and things like that. Like, God can work in mighty and awesome ways, and all we have to do is show up and talk about the thing that we love the most.
Any of you guys have anything else you wanted to know or that we didn't address already? Angie, you have anything else you want to share? That's pretty much covered it then.
No.
Okay.
So if people want to help out, you go to agapeforchildren.org. Got it. .org. So Angie,
Put that in the description too.
thanks for being on here. I hope everybody that hears this, if you feel convicted by any of this or feel led to help out, I mean, I appreciate that there's ministries that are doing this, coming alongside the local church. So make sure you go check them out and support them. And
Yeah, signing off from Cat Blanket Studio. Listen next time on Project 28.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Project 28 podcast. For more information about this podcast or the ministry of Grace Bible Church, please visit our website at gbctroy.com.